Good morning, students. Man, it's so good to be back with you. First of all, I want to congratulate all you seniors who graduated Thursday night. I am so excited to see where God takes you, what doors He opens, how He uses you, and we're just super pumped about the future of all you students. Let's dive into our word this morning. We're continuing in the Gospel Project. We're continuing walking in the footsteps with Jesus. And we've been going through the New Testament and through Jesus' ministry. And we've been seeing the different people that encountered with Jesus, that had encounters, that got to see His power. They got to that's what I love about the Bible. The Bible is full of people. It's not holy people. It's people with baggage, people with sin. You know, I have a page in my Bible that said, what kind of people did Jesus associate with? And it's got a whole list, and it's throughout all the Gospels while Jesus was in His ministry. And just a glimpse of them, it talks about he was with tax collectors. He was with an insane hermit, a Roman governor, a young boy, a homemaker, an expert in the law, a criminal, a fisherman, a king, a poor widow, a Roman centurion, a group of children, a prophet, adulterous woman, and it goes on and on and on. And Jesus just loves being with people. He loves being with people and seeing people change lives, seeing their lives change because of an encounter with Him. And we've been going through that. We've seen 10 lepers. We've seen a poor widow. We've seen some leaders in the synagogue. And this week we're going to be talking about two people that are desperate. And they've tried everything in the world to fix their situation. They've tried everything in the world to make things better in their life. But it didn't pan out. It didn't work. And they turned to Jesus. And let's go ahead and dive into Mark chapter 5. We're going to be in verses 21 through 43. And let's look at the story of these two people. Verse 21, it said, when Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around Him while He was by the lake. Remember, we discussed last week that Jesus is well into His ministry right here. He's becoming famous. People, wherever He goes, there are crowds. It's because of His healing, because of His great preaching. Just people are amazed at what is coming from Jesus, whether out of His mouth or whether His healing. And so wherever He goes, there's a crowd. And that's what's happening right here. It said in verse 22, then one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came. When he saw Jesus, he fell at His feet. He pleaded earnestly with Him, my little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed. And so Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around Him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had, yet instead of getting better, she got worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind Him in the crowd and touched His cloak, because she thought, if I just touch His clothes, I will be healed. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. And once Jesus realized the power had gone out from Him, He turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? You see the people crowding around you, the disciples answered, yet you can ask, who touched me? But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at His feet, trembling with fear, and told Him the whole truth. He said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. While Jesus was still speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. Your daughter is dead. They said, why bother the teacher anymore? Overhearing what they had said, Jesus told them, don't be afraid, just believe. He did not let anyone follow Him except Peter, James, John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw a commotion with people crying and wailing. He went in and said to them, Why all this commotion and wailing? This child is not dead but asleep. But they laughed at him. After he put them out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. And they were completely astonished. He told her to get something to eat. You know, it's two people in here. Let's back up just a little bit and let's see the lady who is bleeding. Going back to verse 25. And it said a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. So this lady has been bleeding for 12 years. She has been going. The 12 years is a long time. She's been trying, as you see in these following scriptures. It said in verse 26, she has suffered a great deal under many cares of doctors. So she's tried everything out there, every healing remedy that has been known at this time, every thing that she has been suggested to her to get better or to make her life better. She's tried. It said in the second part of that scripture, it said she also had spent all she had. So she spent her money. She's invested and she's been into all the remedies, to all the things the world has offered her to make her life better. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. You know, the world right now is at a time where, you know, if you ask most people, they would say, do you think this world is in a better state right now, a worse state? And most people would say that this is, the world's in a pretty bad state right now. And we've gone through the Bible and we've seen there's been a lot of times in the Bible when the world's got in bad states, got in bad, there's been bad times on the earth. And I think we're in the midst of one right now. And a lot of people are trying everything out there to make their life better. They're spending all their money to make their life better. They're trying everything that the world offers to make their life better. You know, a lot of people try drugs, try alcohol, try shiny things, try to get another shiny thing. If I get another shiny thing in my life, you know, it will make my life better. You know, the world tells us that, you know, just enjoy life, do all these things, get this, get that, and you'll be better. And she's tried that, and her life got worse. But she's heard. We talked about Jesus becoming famous. She's heard Jesus is coming through town, and she tries to ease up through the crowd. She's probably pushing her way between people, getting up in there. And she said, thinks in her mind. She said, "Well, I've tried everything. And maybe if I can just touch the clothes of Jesus, I'll be healed." And so she does that. She weaves her way through the crowd and she gets up there and touches Jesus' clothes. And immediately the bleeding stopped and she felt in her body that she was freed from suffering. And Jesus, he feels power leave his body. And he asks the question, you know, who touched my clothes? Who touched my clothes? You know, the lady is probably trying to get behind someone so maybe they won't notice it's her. And finally, Jesus is probably asked again, and he's heard him talking to the disciples about who touched me, and they're kind of arguing with Jesus like everybody's touching you, and he's saying, no, who touched me? And verse 34 is a very powerful verse, and I kind of, the first time I read this, I overlooked it, and Justin and I, we discussed, kind of go back and forth about, you know, what we're going to be teaching, and because we're teaching the same scripture, and what are you going to teach? What am I going to teach? And which way is God leading us? And Justin pointed out to me last week about the powerful point of this 34. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace, and be freed from your suffering." You know, daughters and son and our children are very special in our life. And, you know, it's a special word about, and it's a lot of love when you use the word daughter, when you use the word son, when you use the word child of mine. And, you know, even though this woman has chose everything under the sun to make her life better, and she finally comes to Jesus, finally tries this remedy. He says, I know you've tried everything. I know you didn't choose me first. I know there people were telling you there's other things in the world to make your life better. But when she realizes that, and that's what she tells in her testimony, told him, she fell at his feet, trembling with fear, and told him the truth. So she's obviously telling everybody about her life prior, and now what has changed in her life since she encountered Jesus. And Jesus says, daughter, that one word means forgiven, means I love you, means you're part of me. My daughter is part of me, part of our family. And that means Jesus is saying, you're part of me, daughter. You're a child of mine. And we see this, and as we go into the story, all this is going on, this conversation right here, and it goes on a little bit, and all of a sudden there's some commotion, and while Jesus is speaking, some people come from the house of Jairus. The synagogue leader says, your daughter is dead. They say, why bother the teacher anymore? And Jesus overhears this conversation, and he says just a few words, don't be afraid, just believe. So what does Jesus mean by that? They're saying, don't bother no more. She's died. I think in a nutshell, when we think about what does Jesus mean right here, he's saying, you came to me believing. Jairus came to him and believing, saying, I want you to heal my daughter. So keep on believing. Don't let circumstance control your belief. A lot of times we let our circumstance control our belief. If it gets worse, well, Jesus can't help me no more. It's gone too bad now. It's gone. I've been living in sin too long. I've been doing this habit too long. I've been doing this, and there's just no hope for me now. And Jesus is saying, look, man, I'm Jesus. These two people right here in this story are desperate. They are in a desperate situation. Probably even this synagogue leader here, if he had any other way in the world, he probably tried it while his daughter's been sick. She's probably been sick for more than just today. When Jesus coming through town, he's tried other things. The main point of this story today, and we say each week when we see people encounter Jesus, and we try to learn from that, we say, what can we learn today? What can we learn from this situation? Jesus doesn't care who you are. He doesn't care about the situation you are. And there's no circumstance that we shouldn't base. We should be believing no matter what the circumstance, or we shouldn't let circumstance control our belief. Jesus is sitting there waiting. This woman, he was destined to come through this town. She's been going through it for 12 years. That's a lengthy time. A lot of people have been going through things for a lengthy time before this, and Jesus saying, maybe you didn't choose me first in the beginning out there. You chose other things, but I still love you. I still want you. Come be a child of mine. Come follow me. Come. And that's what we can learn from these two desperate people right here. Maybe you're at a students. Maybe you've tried everything. Maybe people are putting everything in front of you, and you're seeing these things are not working. Maybe you're seeing, everything that people are suggesting that can bring you peace, can bring you happiness, can make your life better. And you get to say, man, this is only making my life worse. Why am I choosing these things? Jesus saying, just come. Just come to me. Come to me, and I am the way, the only way, the truth, and the life. Students, can't wait to be back with you next week. Can't wait to see who encounters Jesus. Spend some time in the Word, and Jesus is there. No matter who we are, we've seen that in all these people. He loves everyone. He's waiting, and can't wait to see you next week. Thank you.